All right, we're now live. How's it going, everybody? What's
Hello,
going on?
hello.
We have Patricia Grace here from Raised Vibes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background, Patricia, before we get rocking and rolling here?
Sure, I'm a holistic wellness coach and or a life coach, I would say. I work with people on gut health and rebuilding their microbiome. So I do a lot in detox and diet, but I also work with emotions because that is a really big part of healing. So I've gotten a lot of clients who maybe weren't healing with the physical stuff, and then I had to start getting into the emotional stuff to kind of take it across the finish line. So that's what
Oh
I do.
yeah, right
Yeah, I
on.
love
Yeah,
it.
people's health and their mindset and their emotions are kind of what we're getting into today. So we're gonna do this relationship discussion on. Welcome everybody. If you're just joining here right now, so yeah, we're gonna do a relationship discussion. Neither of us are relationship experts, but we came to a conclusion that we're gonna talk about relationships and how you can go about re-engineering your relationship, whether you're in a long-term committed marriage right now, or if you're just looking for a partner in crime or a partner in love right now. What you can do to like expedite the process and to make things a little bit better, not only survive in your relationship but learn how to thrive. So
Absolutely.
what do you think about that, the re-engineering a
Yeah,
relation?
I mean, I love reverse engineering relationships. Like, this was your brainchild, actually, and we just kind of
Yeah,
talked about it a little bit, but reversing things from divorce back to the honeymoon phase. And there's just so much stuff we can unpack. But one of the first things that I was thinking about is understanding the root causes of the disconnection, right? And of
yeah,
course, you have to have two people who want to do this and two people who want to work on the relationship, because if it's one sided, it's never going to happen.
no,
So, yeah, so one of the things I was thinking about underneath that kind of subject or umbrella is relationships fall apart due to unhealed emotional wounds, in my opinion. That's a big part of it, right?
yeah,
And I think bringing awareness to like childhood wounds and how did each person's upbringing shape their attachment style. Also, just recognizing how unresolved pain, resentment,
oh
or
yeah,
avoidance, can
yeah.
really play havoc and create distance in a relationship. So I think that my first one is understanding the root causes of this disconnection is important.
So how about we go to how a relationship starts? So if you can go to like when a relationship starts, what initially do you believe gets two people like communicating together, attracted together, like at the first initial meeting when somebody meets each other? What do you think maybe are the three top or five top things that people get attracted to the other person on?
Well, I mean, there's always physical attraction, which there needs to be. I think energetically people get attracted. Kind of like water seeks its own level. So there might be like some connection there because you guys have a lot of things in common. But I guess you'd have to go back to like the honeymoon phase, right? And start
Yeah.
there. So, when you're first meeting somebody, you're putting your best foot forward, you're putting in the effort, you're showing up as your shiniest self, and they're not getting into all the wounds and stuff yet.
No,
So
no,
I think,
no.
yeah, so I think one thing I would say is like you had this curiosity, right? You were curious about your partner, you want to learn everything about them. And I would say, as your relationship evolves, you need to keep that curiosity because people evolve, right?
Hmm.
Relationships evolve. And don't assume you know everything about your partner, but I think that curiosity is a big one.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'd go like I'd say from a man's perspective, I don't know about the woman's perspective, but it's all on physical attraction and sex right away. Physical attraction and sex, guaranteed. Because it's like, in my experience, that might be with me with guys. They want to have a woman that looks really good, and then they want sex right away from what I could be totally wrong, but physical attraction and sex, and I think everything else gets thrown out the window, and I think a lot of relationships are shallow right at the beginning because again they're just trying to get in the woman's under her bra and into her pants. I could be wrong, but yeah, this is what I think most
I mean,
guys want.
obviously, physical intimacy is a big part of it. But I think from the woman's
Yeah,
perspective, we're looking for some emotional intimacy too. you
Oh
know?
yeah, but guys
I
are
mean, yeah.
guys
So,
generally
so I
aren't.
think, yeah, I think, you know, you're kind of coming at things with a little bit, and we're also kind of like, you know, we're both kind of feeling each other out and prospectively saying, could this person be
Yeah,
you know, a partner in life, or is it, you know, it depends on what you're looking for. So having those conversations in the very beginning parts of dating is probably a good idea, because you
yeah,
can say, you know, what are you looking for? Well, I'm just looking for a good time, and I'm looking for a life partner. So then this isn't going to go any further probably than a first date. So kind of talking about some of that stuff in a
yeah.
fun and playful way in the beginning is probably a good idea.
Oh, definitely. Like if people want to have a long-term relationship, you'd have to throw sex out. Throw because that sex complicates everything. If you have sex right away and you're totally into the attraction and all that kind of stuff that goes along with that, if you can throw that out, like throw it out for until marriage is hard to do for most people. But if you can throw sex out and then just work on getting to know your potential partner and go over, like I like to call it the undivorce or re-engineering the relationship. So pretend you have a relationship and then you're going through a divorce, because I just went through a pretty messy divorce and it sucked. So you have to go through all that stuff on the back end, like your finances and kids and the house and who's going to do this and who's going to do this and who's going to do this. So if you don't want to get too deep into it right away because you usually scare people off. But again, you can ask the question, what are you looking for? Why do you want to meet? Or you just want to have a friendship? Or are you looking for a long-term partner? And then you can kind of go on from there. But it's like if you discuss finances, where you want to live, what your short-term goals, what your long-term goals are, and then yeah, any childhood traumas. Again, you don't want to discuss this all on the first date, obviously, and I
Right.
believe, but it's like to see if this person's even like worthy to be compatible to go forward with that. You can meet for a coffee, and then you have who's going to pay for this, and the guy should usually pay, I believe. But it's like if the guy's continually paying and paying and paying and paying, and then again you have to get to know the person, what their motives are, what their intentions are, and then moving all that stuff forward through the relationship phase, I think is important. Like getting to know the person, take as long as you possibly can, because selection in relationships, or if you're building a team, or if you're building employees, or if you're building a sports team, the selection process is important, and it's good to know everything you possibly can about that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think from what I'm understanding, what you're saying is like building the friendship first is really important, right?
Oh yeah, because you
And
need.
as you start dating, you know, you start to discover things about each other. Like early on, you should probably find out what it is that you are looking for and what it is that they're looking for. Like I said, if you want a life partner versus somebody who just wants to go out on Friday nights and have a good time,
Yeah.
you might not be a good fit. But I think finding out the morals, the values, and, you know, all of the stuff that are they aligned with what your morals and values are, you know, that kind of stuff. Do you want kids? Do they want kids? So that's all, you know, stuff that you need to discover in the beginning phases of dating. um,
How do
and the
you do
more you
that?
guys can communicate and talk about this stuff, you know, I mean, there's a lot of information there to unpack. It wouldn't be necessarily all on a first date, but yeah, I think building the friendship is super important, because that's what you're going to always have, is the friendship and that foundation, and that's what you want, is to build a really good strong foundation.
So how can, if you meet someone, because people put on masks, people put on fronts, people can be fake. How do you get to know the true authentic person, in your opinion? Like how do you get to know the true authentic person over a given period of time? So they
It
can't be
does
fake.
it.
So they can't be fake because they'll be fake. They'll put on a mask. They'll pretend to be this because they want to be their best possible self, because they're selling you on them basically. But if you
Mhm,
if they really got to, because I had this experience where I fell in love with a person who I thought this person was, and
mhm.
then when she had me, I got to see the other side of the person. Was like, I don't want any part of that person. And you still
Yeah.
have to deal with the other side of the person, like, but depending on the severity, I had to deal with, and I don't think people should ever have to deal with what I went through. I understand you're going to have conflict, but if you can get to see the evil side of the person, like the bad side of the person, or the person that's not too friendly and not too nice, if that's still okay, then yeah, if you can, if that person may never even exist, but it is there somewhere, like the the person who you do, it's like the other side of the person, because I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but if people are pretend that they're like really, really good, and then something that'll trigger in that person, it could be a personality disorder, or some people call them narcissists and all this other kind of stuff. How do you get to find if that person is to bring that person out over a given period of time so you know exactly what it is you're dealing with?
I think probably I would say asking really good questions, and poignant questions, and just spending that time and observing behavior. How are they treating other people? How are they
Yeah.
behaving? Are they sitting around gossiping about other people, all the time? Is that kind of the level of where you are? And just kind of assessing that kind of stuff. But I mean, you'll see their triggers, right? And everybody does have some triggers. So,
Yeah.
it's recognizing the emotional triggers instead of like, we're all trying to recognize them instead of react. So are they recognizing it? Are they able to discuss it and communicate about it? Are they just reacting and blowing up, which, does happen? And then how do you repair after that? Like, okay, so if somebody had an emotional trigger, now what do you do? Like, do you
Hmm.
come back and talk about it when everybody's calmer and say, hey, like, what was that about? Or, how are you feeling? Or, so I think that communication after the fact is also important too. But I think that just asking good questions in the beginning when you're dating is going to get you a lot of information if you're actively listening and not just listening to respond. So when you ask a good question, really listen to the answer, be present, and pay attention to what they're saying. Because I
Yeah.
mean, Maya Angelou said it: when people show you who they are, believe them, right?
Oh
And it
yeah.
doesn't mean we don't evolve and change, but that's what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with right now, as yourself as well. So, this isn't
Hmm.
about perfection. Be curious. Be curious and not judgmental. So if you're curious and not judgmental with them, I think that you're going to get a lot more information from who they really are.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Asking good questions, but then people can still fake questions. So you can like, I believe you have to observe them in a whole bunch of different environments to see what kind of relationship they have with their family, what kind of relationship they have with their friends, what kind of relationship they would have with a janitor at an establishment or a server at an establishment, and how they would treat the lowest person on the totem pole if they treat that person with like respect and honor, the same as they would treat the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. If they treat the janitor the same way, then you get to know that they possibly could be an authentic person for sure. Because how
Yeah,
they
well,
treat,
it takes time to really get to know somebody. It's not something that's going to happen in 3 dates, let's say, even, right? And this is where you were getting into, like, you don't really know who you're dating
yeah,
because we are putting our best foot forward. And I think that's what, we can get into this too, but I mean, social media makes that so much easier because everybody's texting and you're like all in your best behavior for the first, little bit. And you don't really see each other in the day to day and in the real world and in these real life situations. So I think just spending time, like you said, in different scenarios and situations. I think I mentioned this to you once before, and I thought this was really good. Lewis Howes, who has a podcast called School of Greatness, talked about his relationship with his now wife, and he had dated multiple people and ended up in couples therapy, trying to repair the relationships and that kind of stuff, and then found out their morals and values weren't really aligned. So what he
hmm,
started to do later in life is, like, when he would start to date somebody, he said, I want to do this the other way. I want to go to couples therapy first for maybe
yeah,
3 sessions. I don't know how long he did it for, and
yeah,
talk about some of these things and actually see if we are compatible. So that, I mean, that's an idea, and it's definitely extreme, but it's out there. Yeah.
yeah,
But I thought it was really interesting because now you're kind of going from the back, like we were talking about, reverse engineering it. So getting really to know all of that stuff. Like, what are your childhood wounds? How are you in these situations? What is your relationship like with your mother, your father, your family, that kind of thing? And just kind of getting all that information kind of up front so you don't maybe spend years and then find out it's not working.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess the person would have to want to work on them because I believe every human being is a work in progress, and we're always working. I guess some people are working on themselves, and some people aren't working on themselves. So that would be a good question or something to know is if this person has been continually working on themselves, they're reading good books, they're reading good literature, they listen to good audios and listen to good podcasts. And then, yeah, like you said, I don't even know if people realize that they have childhood traumas or what that's all about. If they've been abused when they were young, or if they've been abandoned, or if they've been rejected, or they have foster parents, or that abuse and all those things happen when they're young, or if you didn't have a good father, if you didn't have parents, like all these things when you're young, they carry all that garbage with them into all their relationships, and then it's like someone has to deal with all that. Because I've I've had to deal. I don't know. I've attracted people that are majorly screwed up, and I don't understand why. People, even from a young age, I've attracted people that are majorly screwed up, and I don't understand why. I guess I'll have to dive deeper into myself as to why I'm
Yeah.
attracting these people. If is it boundaries, or is it too nice, or I'm too empathetic, or I just have to be more forthright or more assertive with these people, even though I can. It's like, yeah, so I have to work on myself to attract the right people in relationships and business and in teams, because I've attracted a lot of good people, but it seems in relationships, I've had some good people, but I guess I didn't go forward with them. So maybe it's because I believe I could fix them or I could help them. And I believe if you're going into a relationship to try to fix somebody or help them, that's like a wrong
Right.
intention or motive to even go into a relationship.
Yeah, well, that sounds like your own pattern of behavior to be the fixer, right? Because
Yeah.
there's patterns of behavior, and
Yeah.
I had that ideal too. I could be the fixer, and I could save them, and I could fix them, and all you end up doing is hurting yourself, right? Because you cannot change someone else,
No,
you cannot fix them.
no.
They
It
have to
took
be doing
me
the work. So yeah,
it took me forever to figure out. It's like, because I'm
it's a
projecting.
pattern.
It's
Yeah.
like, don't you want to live like this? It's like, no, they don't, because or else they do it. It's like if you're teaching a kid sports or whatever they want to do, you can't force them to do it, even though if they're not doing it on their own, if they're not keeping their they're doing their homework or keeping their room clean, you can continue to force them, but you have to give them a reason as to why these attributes are good. And then even with sports and instruments or extracurricular activities for kids, if you keep forcing it down their throat, they're not going to want to do it. If they truly are interested in something and then they get possessed or obsessed about it, that's when you get really good at something, because you're going to continue to do it and someone doesn't have to push you. So all of that, if someone's interested or they're dabbling into something, so they might want to do it a little bit, but if they're totally obsessed, then they're gonna go all in and do that as much as they possibly can without somebody having to force them to do it. And with personal development, that's another good thing. If someone's into personal development and working on themselves, you don't have to remind someone to do that, because they're doing it every day with everything they do. That's kind of who they are intrinsically inside, I believe. And if you have to again force people to do this, then I don't believe they really want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I think this goes back to, like you talked about, some of the patterns that you have that I've also seen in myself, that I've also seen in my clients. And that fixer pattern is one of them. But I think a good question, because we were talking about questions, a good question would be when you're dating is like ask somebody, because I mean, like you said, people can put on, I mean, I've had people tell me, yeah, I'm into, working on healing
Yeah.
my inner self and doing all this stuff. And so a question
Yeah.
I ask instead of like, oh, are you into doing that? Is I'm like, where on your calendar, what's the next thing on your calendar that is, for that inner help, and what is it? So I want to get
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit more in depth. Are you actually doing the work, right? So where in your calendar is it? And like, what is it? And that might not be something that's important to them. And if it's important to you, that's something you need to vet in the beginning, right? Because
Yeah.
that's not going to change later. So if you're looking for someone who's into growth and into, healing the inner self, they're going to be doing the work. So, what's the next date on your calendar of something that you're doing for your inner health or your inner work?
Yeah.
And that's
I
a good
mean,
question. So you can rephrase it a little bit differently, but that's kind of what I want to know. Where is it on your schedule? That's what I want
yeah.
to know.
And then are they just starting it? Like maybe they're just starting. Maybe this is who they want to be and who they want to try to, but they don't know how to go about doing the personal development, or maybe they want to start doing all this inner work, but they're like, yeah, I want to do this, but I don't know how, and I need someone to like coach me or teach me. I guess that's where you come in as like um, the emotional coach, and you're the nutrition coach, and they can contact you to like show them how to do all that kind of stuff, because it definitely helps having a mentor and a coach to kind of like keep you accountable and responsible and on track as much as possible, as opposed to having yourself as your own coach. I find in sport, that's why they have them in
It
sports,
is.
because
It's
yeah.
very important. And I mean, most of the high performing people have mentors and coaches. So yeah, that's totally true. But I'm going to try to bring this back around to our subject today of rebuilding the relationships and doing all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I think for me, both partners have to be doing the work on themselves. And what old wounds or patterns need healing, right? So that's a good question. Like, what old wounds or patterns need healing? Might not be a first date question, but it's something that you should know, right? Because then you want to know your partner and delve into it. And some people don't want a partner. Some people want, a more casual relationship, and they don't want to go deep, and that's okay. But that might not be the person for you or for me or whomever. I think addressing any addictive behaviors is really important.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Emotional eating or numbing with distraction or codependency, knowing all of those addictive behaviors is super important for yourself, because we all have some, and for your partner, because I think that's going to give you insight so that you're not going to get into these other kind of bigger blow-ups, because you understand them better and you can see maybe where they're being triggered and stuff like that. And I think it's super important for people to learn how to self-soothe. You cannot expect your partner to, fill all your emotional voids. You have to learn how to self-soothe. So I think that's important too when it comes to healing the inner self.
So let's say like we're married right now. How, say we've been married for 20 years and none of this stuff has even been touched on through, which I believe is the majority of people in marriages right now. which is brutal. It's totally brutal. It's like, okay, we're married for 20 years. We haven't discussed our finances. We haven't discussed how we're going to raise the children. Our communication styles are brutal. We haven't discussed how we're going to work together on our physical fitness, our nutrition, our vacations and all. So how do you even, and you're kind of at odds, but you're just living together. So how do you even like go about creating a conversation with your husband or your wife to say, okay, because you haven't done this for 20 years. So how can you go about like gently, and who's best to start it? Does it matter if the wife starts or the husband starts this conversation? How do you go about creating a conversation to say, okay, we have to start. This isn't really working how I thought it would. What do I need? What do we need to do to like get this going a little bit better?
Yeah. I don't know that it matters who starts it, but I imagine that if in 20 years you've been married, these things have come up. You just didn't know what they were about. And you just had the fight over like the microwave or whatever it was, when it really wasn't about that. It was a stacking of wounds and cuts and resentments and all this stuff, and it blows up, right? So you have had it come up, you just didn't understand it. So I think that when you do have a conversation, it needs to be in good timing, right? You need to read the room. You don't want to like do it when maybe the person's exhausted and they just got home from work and they just want to start distracting or doing something. You have to kind of pick your timing and pick your battles, let's say. A soft start really works well with people. And set your intention, and you can say that out loud. You can say, listen, I really want to connect more deeply with you, and I want to, improve our relationship, and I would like to have a conversation about this, and come to it with curiosity. Don't think that you know your partner just because you've been with them for 20 years, because people evolve and change. No. And most people think they just know them, so it's going to be this way. And there might be some of that, right? But if you come with an intention and state the intention, and this might not be a good time. If they're avoidant, they might never want to talk about it, so it's like, you need to know a lot about your partner. But I would say a big thing is rebuilding emotional safety. Relationships heal or thrive when both parties feel they have emotional safety, and they can be their authentic selves.
Can you define define what emotional safety is?
It's something you'd have to build up to if you've been in this relationship and don't know any of these things about your partner, right? And there's all these fights, right? Because they're feeling triggered, they're not feeling emotionally safe, they're not feeling seen, they might not be their vulnerable self with you, they might feel that they're judged. So again, this would be coming with curiosity as to why they're acting this way. What is making them yell and angry and triggered? Is it really about, the garbage, or is it really about something deeper? Maybe it's wounds about, their childhood or whatever. So I think you just have to create space for honest, raw conversations. And
how do you do that? Like, how do you?
Well, like I said, you start off with something like
curiosity.
Well, curiosity, non-judgment, trying to understand, listening to hear them, not to respond, being present, turning your phone off, giving that time, paying attention to like even little things with your partner can go a long way. Like, do you know what a bid is? Okay, so say your a bid for affection, attention, whatever. So say your partner puts a bid out there and they're like, you know, whatever it might be, you know, and they like, oh, do I look nice in this dress today? You know, they're putting a bid for your attention, for a compliment, whatever it is. That's just a simple one, right? But start paying attention to your person's bids. And if you start meeting those bids, they're going to feel a little bit more connected to you. They're going to feel a little bit more safe. So you can start with small things like that, paying attention to their bids. Like if somebody didn't feel seen or heard as a child and they start to get your attention when you're on your phone and they're really starting to act a little like they're calling your name multiple times or whatever, and you're like, let me just put my phone down and give you my attention. Like, what's up? Yeah. What's up, babe? You know, and just really focus in and hone in on that bid that they're trying to give you, whatever it might be. So start paying attention to bids. Soft starts are good. You know, don't come in with like, you should, you could, you would, you always, you know, those kind of terms are immediately going to get somebody to be defensive. So you have to use linguistic alchemy when you're talking to them, and you have to like, again, soft start, come with your intention and say, hey, you know what, I've noticed that we maybe have this pattern. And I see that like when this happens, that happens. And I've noticed this pattern of behavior that I would really like to talk through a little bit. And really, you know, my intention is that we can be closer, you know, and have like a little bit more connection and a little bit more fun and maybe a little more spontaneity, whatever it is. And just put your intention out there and again, listen.
Yeah, I guess that's what they call it, a relationship, because you're building a relationship with somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So it's probably good that you work together, find ways to work together with each other. If you're looking for continuous ways to like, how can I work with you? How can I help you? How can I please you? How can I serve you? If both parties are doing that, then that's continuous service and building relationship with each other. And then you can work on the major aspects of your life together, as opposed to one fighting against each other the whole time. And it's just like, then you don't even want to anything to do with them. And then it's like, why are you even together then? It's like
I think you have to show up with vulnerability too, which takes strength. You need to show up with vulnerability about, like I said, just coming to the person and saying, this is what I'd like to do. This is how I feel, you know, that kind of stuff. So come with some vulnerability, curiosity.
That's where the ego is out.
And non-judgment, because you might not necessarily get an answer that you like, and you need to accept it and then, you know, take it in. And this is how they're feeling at the moment, right? And this may or may not have anything to do with you. You might have to do childhood wounds or whatever, but all of those things would be a great way to start and build emotional safety.
Yeah, because relationships, especially between a male and a female in a marriage relationship, in my experience, that's the most difficult thing I've ever done. Because it's like, this should be no problem. It's like, I'm already doing all this stuff. I'm already doing everything. So then you find someone that can come and help you together, and it'll be more fun, and you do it together, so it'll be double your pleasure. That's the way I thought. It's like, I'm doing everything already, find someone that'll be able to like come into the mix, and then it's like everything will be enhanced, is what my thinking was. But it's like, no, it's not. It's not kind of how.
So what came to my mind was that sometimes people love each other in their love language, right? So maybe for you, acts of service was a love language, and you were doing all these things, right?
Yeah.
For your partner, but maybe that's not her love language. So maybe you were loving her in your love language, but you need to learn, what is their love language? What is the way that they need to be loved? Because theirs might be quality time, theirs might be gifts, theirs might be something else. So you need to try to start to love people. You know, maybe it's physical affection, and maybe that's what they needed, was a hug more than you putting gas in their car, or whatever means the most to them. So I think learning each other's love language and then loving in what they need, not versus what your love language is also super important and helpful.
Oh yeah. It gets with getting to know, asking them what their love languages are, and then making sure that you're filling them up with that. Definitely. Yeah. But I totally think if people, then that's why it's called the undivorce or re-engineering. If people, before you get to the point where you're going to hit a separation or divorce, if people being proactive in everything that people do, which the majority, our systems aren't even set up for proactivity, even though they say they are. be proactive with your mindset, your emotions, your health, your physical body, your relationships, your career, learning, education. So this is kind of why I wanted to do that. And this is why I'm on the planet, and this is why I'm doing this, to get people to be proactive before the bomb goes off, before like the monster gets way too big, then you have to deal with it in
Yeah.
all aspects, especially in your relationship. If you're in a relationship right now, and you're married, you can fix that if both partners, like I say, choose to do so, and they both make choices to do so. So it's like we have to go over our finances. We have to go over how we even communicate with each other, because we can't even be in the
Mm-hmm.
same room right now without pissing each other off with one word coming out of our mouth, and we have to figure out why that is. We can't even look
Right.
at each other right now without even pissing each other off. So it's like, how do we get to a point where we can sit in the same room and have a discussion with each other? So you probably have to go back. You both minds would have to go back to what originally attracted you to this person, and pretend you're just dating again. So
Yeah.
the
Well,
original,
yeah, you unpacked a lot of things there. So I would say you talked about prevention, right?
yeah,
In a relationship versus having to repair after the damage, right? So it's about prevention and putting in that time and that effort and energy. And I think a lot of people think that relationships don't take work, and maybe we can change the word work, but they don't take continued energy. But they do, just like anything else. If you where you put your attention, energy flows. So if you're not
hmm
putting your attention into the relationship, energy is not going to flow to the relationship. And just like a job, if you weren't putting your attention into the job or really showing up for it, you might not have a job.
hmm
So I think reconnecting through playfulness and presence is a really good way when things have gotten that far. Be fully present with your partner. Start with that. Start with like just little things, putting your phone away and actually looking at them when they're talking to you, giving them
yeah,
your full attention. Your energy is going to change their energy, right?
yeah,
And it doesn't mean that you're going to solve all the problems by yourself, but that's just one way. It's just listen deeply, look in their eyes, and be present. Like that would be my first thing to say when you're kind of at that thing, because if everybody feels seen, heard, and understood, they're going to feel so much more calm, and they're going to be able to maybe not feel triggered and not blow up, because now you're listening,
hmm
instead of feeling like judged, right? I'm going to be defensive because you're always saying, you never do this, or you never wash the dishes at night, or whatever, then of course you're going to get defensive. So I would say start with the playfulness, be present, touch often, right? I mean, small, intentional, like physical affection, it can really help with the emotional connection that's been suffering. So even if you're walking past your spouse and they're washing the dishes, maybe you can, you know, just rub
you
their
can
back
help
for a
them.
second, or just anything. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
help them, but I'm just saying you could just make a little physical touch or something.
Oh
That's a
yeah,
really good way. Bring back some lightness and spontaneity,
yeah.
because I think that when things become routine, things get boring for people, and then they can be looking for something else. So I think bring back a little spontaneity, a little fun, a little humor. I mean, that can go a long way. I know that a lot of women look for men who can make them laugh.
Oh yeah, yeah. Comedy's a good one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just try to, like I said, be present and start. You can just start with that. That would go a
hmm
long way. Be present. Look for bids. I mean, they would feel so much more seen and loved just from those two things.
And that's where, from a male's perspective and a woman's a bid is when they're giving you a hint, when they're giving you a subtle hint that you're supposed to like, as opposed, because men are usually direct in my experience, and women are indirect. They'll give you hints. Is that what a bid is? When they're giving you a hint of
Well,
what?
no, men can give bids too,
Yeah.
and it might be whatever it may be. But I'm just saying, a bid is just like I said, the man can be like looking for your attention, right? And you're busy with the kids, or you're on the phone, or you're doing something else, and they seem to be like, really trying to get your attention. That can be a bid, because all I want is your attention, your presence, and your affection right now. I want you to, like, connect with me. A bid is for connection. So I'm
hmm
looking for connection. So men as well as women look for connection. You just have to start paying attention to your partner's bids, and then honing in on them. And then if you can at the moment, meeting that bid, because that's going to go a long way.
Is a bid direct or is it indirect? If someone's laying a bid,
It,
is
it's
it is
it's a
it?
little bit indirect, like I said, it can be a matter of like whatever it may be. It's looking for connection. So
hmm
you'll have to know your partner a little bit and just start paying attention to their bids for connection, because they will show them to you. And it might not be in the way that you might do it, right? A man
Yeah.
might do it differently than a woman or whatever. And you just start paying attention to their bids. And if you meet their bids, they're going to feel a lot more seen, heard, and loved. That's going to soften things down a little bit.
Yeah. So if someone, because if someone put a bid out and then you say, okay, is this, because this could be playful or this could be one way or the, if say my wife put a bid out and it's like, is this, and then, because I would take this as, is that a bid? Is that a bid? Is this a bid? Because you would identify the bid because you're talking to her right now. And then I'd say, okay, is this a bid? You're looking for me to do this with you?
Well, I don't know that you
for...
necessarily have to like come out.
That's how I would. That's
it.
how I would. That's how I personally would play. Is this a like? Is this a bid right now, or is this like?
Right, but then,
so
then you're opening up like, okay, so now I want to be. Like, it's a subtle thing, and it might not need to be called out, right? So, like I said, you know.
Because then I'll just do that. Whatever you're asking, you can just. It's like if you're hinting that I should do this or I should pay or I should do something, then. But is this what this is right now?
But it's not necessarily that you need to do like, I need you to take the garbage. That's a direct, ask, right? Like that's an ask, and I'm asking you to do something. Maybe it's an act of service, and I want you to notice like how hard I'm working in the house or in the kitchen or whatever. So like. That could be it, but a bid could be more subtle, like I said. And a bid gives you the opportunity, you can either turn towards each other or you can turn away from each other. So when you're not meeting bids, you're kind of turning away from the person. So it can be really subtle. I think we had a couple, is there a question on the side? I saw some pop up there. Is there a chat?
Well, there's a chat here. Let's see.
Okay, let's see.
It's new technology to be here.
So a bid, watching her eyes, okay. And reactions when she's looking at shoes or purses. Okay, so this is from Al.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Watching her eyes when she's looking at shoes or purses, yeah.
Well, I mean, it can be just like I said, it's for your attention. It's a bid to, to connect with you. So, like I said, a bid for me might be, come sit over here with me on the couch for a few minutes and snuggle or whatever, like that's pretty direct bid. Yeah. But if your partner's busy and they can't right now or whatever, like they're just going to say, oh, I can't, I have to run out the door, I have to go to work or whatever it might be. It could just be anything subtle. If they're like, tugging on your arm like the kids do and, trying to get your attention when you're on the phone, they want to connect with you right now. Now that might have to do with them being, feeling unseen and unheard. I don't know. But I mean, they're just small things. So just start looking for, it was a question Al said, is a bid watching her eyes and reactions when she's looking at purses? Not necessarily. A bid is for connection with you, right? If she's looking at purses and stuff, maybe she's looking to see if you're going to get her one. I mean, maybe she's looking to see if you're paying attention. But a bid would be more of a request, but indirectly to you. So,
yeah, I've learned that as well.
Like I said, a bid can be women. Like women do this one a lot. Do I look fat in these pants? Right? That's a bid.
That's a loaded question. That could be a loaded question.
Okay, but I'm asking you to like say you look beautiful, right? Or I'm asking you to give me some attention and that you're still attracted to me, right? So it's a bid for some kind of connection that you're still finding desirable, whatever it might be. So that can be a bid, right?
Because I've got that question before.
I know we all have. That's why I was thinking, like, what's a good bid?
And it's like I've been as a lose-lose. It's like if she's gained 20 or 30 or 40 pounds and she knows it, and she says, "Do I look fat in these pants?" You either have to lie to her, and she doesn't want you to lie to her, or you have to say, if you lie to her, you say, "Oh, you look beautiful. You always look beautiful no matter what." Then she says you're lying because I don't feel beautiful and I don't look beautiful, and you're telling me I do. And then if you say,
look, she's looking to see how you feel about her gaining that weight. Do you still love her? Do you still find her attractive? Do you still find her desirable? Right? So it's not really about, do I look fat in these pants, right? Because I really just want to know that you, my partner, still find me desirable. Yeah. So do I look fat in these pants? Say, I think those pants look great. I mean, yes, you don't have to get into, you gain some weight right now because it's probably not what she wants to hear at the moment.
No.
So you don't have to lie. I mean, you still find her beautiful, and no matter what.
Yeah, because she's looking for validation in the fact that
She's
she
looking
feels
for
bad.
she's looking for you. Yeah.
Yeah, she feels bad about herself. She's gained the weight, and so you'd have to, that creates a conversation.
So telling her at that moment, well, you have gained 20 pounds and you do look a little fat in those pants, probably not going to go real well because it's judgmental.
Yeah.
And it's not connection that I'm looking for. So yeah, nobody wants to listen. Women, stop asking that question.
That's a tough question. Right? Yeah, that's like a brutal.
It's first of all, stop asking that question because it's a really hard one.
I think it's a loaded question myself.
Honest,
like they shouldn't be. Yeah, they should not be.
But I'm just giving you an example of a bit. But yeah, stop asking that question because
just say I plead the fifth. I refuse to answer your question.
If you're fat and you're fat, don't ask him to say you're not fat. It's not.
Because you can even say you could even go from there. It's like, okay, do you want to start working out? Do you want to start like? Because in my experience, you can't say anything to that question because no matter what you say, unless you say.
You can say
in my experience, you can't say
this.
You can't say anything. It's like I'm not saying nothing.
You can say this. You can say, I love you and I am attracted to you no matter what you're wearing or if you're wearing nothing,
Yeah.
And then just give her a kiss on the cheek and let it be. Like,
and
you can say, don't ask me loaded questions. Like, I know this is more about how you feel, but this is how I feel about you. And I feel that you're amazing, sexy. I love you. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. Yeah. Or something, like find a way to make that bid work. But again, ladies, stop asking men that question.
Yeah, they know why they ask that question. It's an unfair question.
Yeah, well, they know how they feel about it. It doesn't really matter. They're just trying to see, like I said, do you still find me attractive if I'm asking that question? That's what I want to know. Yeah,
that's usually
it's not really about
if they want to pick a fight. That's like usually if they're looking to pick a fight, they'll ask that question.
See, this is where you got to come with curiosity and not judgment, because you can't assume they're looking to pick a fight, right?
Good point. Yeah.
And don't assume you know your partner all the time, because like I said, people evolve. Al has another question. It says, okay.
Where are you getting these questions from on here?
There's a chat on the side. I don't know. Okay, so sending her love notes randomly throughout the day.
Oh, there we go.
I think that's just romantic, Al. That's really sweet. And that keeps the connection going. So I love that. Yeah. But a bid is when somebody's actually asking you for a connection or for something. That's you providing it without them even having to ask. And I think that's like beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if people work on all this, first of all, they have to work on themselves, continually be working on themselves. And then, so you're bringing your best possible self to the relationship. So you have to be healthy. You have to be, I believe you have to be a healthy human being in order to like contribute to the health of a relationship. Because if you're a toxic human being, or if you're not healthy, like again, you can't be perfect. Of course, you can't be perfect, but you want to be the most healthiest. And this is again relates to the whole entire world and the way the world's at right now. So it starts with every individual. If they become healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and then all their relationships, and then in their career and their job, if they become healthy in all these areas of life, then they can take that and build great relationships, and the world becomes better. The world just becomes better because each individual takes it upon themselves to become better. But if people are not, they're not healthy mentally, they're not healthy emotionally, they're not healthy spiritually, their body is not healthy, then it makes it very difficult to like to try to get somebody else healthy, or to try to get the world healthy. If you can't get yourself healthy in all these areas, it makes it tough, and financially too.
Yeah.
So that's why
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that's why it's important for everyone to like continually at the youngest possible age, and then the parents are the model for the kids. So if the parents are modeling health in all these areas, then the kids carry that forward. But if they don't, something inside that person has to say, okay, I'm not going to model my parents because it was a joke, but I'm going to find a model that's going to work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody's on a different journey, and I would say we're all works in progress. So
we are
on the journey, is going to depend, and not everybody's looking for someone who is doing the work, and maybe because they don't want to do the work, or they don't.
Yeah, that's the majority.
So that's the part of discernment where you have to decide, is this the right relationship? But I mean, things can change, And it starts with one person making some changes, and it can be small changes that really will make a big difference, you know, and change the energy in the room. And then try to have some of these more vulnerable, you know, deeper conversations and get into some of this stuff again with the intention of connection, setting the intention out, letting your partner know what you'd like to kind of get out of the conversation, and, you know, just being authentic. I mean, that goes so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Authentic. If people even know what that is nowadays with, I guess, yeah, they kind of do authenticity instead of being fake and telling people what they want to hear, what they would like to hear, how they want to be. And then, yeah, being able to and then that brings us into sensitivities. If you have to watch what you're saying, I guess you kind of do have to watch what you're saying and how you're presenting the information, what kind of body language and energy you have when you're discussing a topic with somebody, so you're not totally overbearing on them, and then sit back and listen to what they have to say and then pitch and catch, give and receive back and forth to make sure that you're bonding with that individual. That's modeling, and then building rapport.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm just going to go back to Al really quick. Al, it sounds like you just started to really reintroduce some romance into your relationship and change things up, right? Because you started to become the partner and, you know, romantic and doing all these little things, which, like I was talking about before, when you change your energy, it can change the dynamics of the relationship. Again, it takes two people to be willing to do the investment, let's say. I don't even like to call it work, but investment. So investing in the relationship to get a different outcome or a result. So I would just say, you know, I always like to say, work on the relationship. Don't just swipe left, which is like the culture we have now, you know. Really try and give it all your all. Again, if two people are willing to do the work, you know, healing your inner self, right? I mean, that's where it starts. We all need to do some healing on our inner selves, and just someone committed to doing that. I mean, that's huge for me. That's what I'm looking for in a partner, is someone committed to doing that work, because I'm doing it all the time. So if you want to see my calendar of where it's scheduled, like today, I did meditation and yoga. That was scheduled today for me. And then I'm at work, right? It's also about healthy eating, and I had a smoothie and whatever. And then I've got groups that I meet with every Monday where we talk about human design, and we get to know and get into our true selves, and we get to talk about all our vulnerabilities and all of our, you know, patterns and all this kind of stuff. So awareness starts with that all as well. Mike is a witness. Is that what he said? Mike is a witness? Oh, for you being more romantic. Yeah. Hey, like I said, it starts with one person. You're going to change that, and she's going to start like appreciating that, and maybe being a little different back to you. So it starts with
definitely.
one.
Yeah, we can go on and on about a whole bunch of different, but I totally believe that people should be proactive on this, like, as opposed to going through the divorce and separation process, or even if you're just meeting someone, go through this stuff ahead of time, because then you can say, okay, I want to keep pursuing, and there could be a dropout point. It's like, no, she's not this or he's not that. Then it's like, nice meeting you, and then just cut it off, and then it's okay. But if you don't set the boundaries, and people have to know exactly what it is they want too. If you don't know what you want, then you're never going to get what you want. You're just going to get a bunch of wishy-washy, like a fart blowing in the wind. It's just going to go, okay, I'll adapt to this, I'll adapt to this, I'll adapt to this. So if people know exactly what it is, what they want, it can't be too broad and too many conflicts. It's got to be aligned with what it is that you want, and then just stick with that. And then you can say no, 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 no. You just don't have to go to the first thing that comes along, and then make sure that you're the best possible person for what you want, that the person that you're looking for would want you as well. Because if you want something like way up here and you're kind of way down here, you'd have to bring yourself up to that point to be the person that you're looking to attract as well. That's where you say water seeks its own level. So if the water is down here, wherever you're at within the water level is kind of what you're going to attract. And that goes to habits, decisions, choices, again, what kind of health you are, and all the different levels of the majors of your life. And then that's all circles back to personal development. Be the person that you choose to be and who you want to become, because you're continually improving upon yourself, which, again, people think they have to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect ever. You're perfectly imperfect. but then you continually have to keep working on yourself forever and the relationship.
Yeah, I would say you're perfect. You're perfectly you. Two things I wanted to touch on from what you said is write out everything that you want in a relationship and then become it. Because then you're going to be energetically at that level of what you want, and then that's what you're going to attract. And then the other thing is when it comes to divorce, you got to choose your pain, right? So you're going to go through the pain of the divorce, or you're going to go through the pain of making it work in your relationship and having those difficult conversations. But if you don't go through the vulnerability and the difficult conversations now, you're going to run into the same patterns and the same things with a different face, right? So you heal it here, or you heal it there, or you go through it again, right? So you got to choose your pain, and again, you're going to heal it here, or you're going to see it again. The patterns are going to keep coming back.
It's like Groundhog Day,
right? Right. It's going to be repeat with a different face and a different until you actually get the lesson and then do the work. Right. So that's my final thoughts.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But yeah. It's always worth doing the work.
Beauty.
Right. As long as two people are willing to do it. But yeah, and it starts with one.
And it would enhance everything. So yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that. That's beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. Awesome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I could come on and talk to you guys a little bit today.
And if you want to get a hold here, I'll put on, see if I can do this here. I'll tell my tech team over here, which is my right hand on my mouse. Here's my tech team was over here. Yeah. Doing. So if you want to set up a call with Patricia, she helps you work on your microbiome. Is that your microbiome with your?
Yeah, your gut health, detoxifying the body, and all the kind of foods you need to eat to get your body healthy, get your microbiome strong, get your immune system strong.
And I think that's where it almost starts, like because
It does. There's a really big gut-brain connection. So working on that will change things, and then you'll start to open up to, see your patterns and all kinds of different things. So yeah, a lot of it starts in the gut, but I work with people on just emotional things as well.
www.raisedvibes.com and her Facebook profile, Patricia Grace. And you're on Instagram too, I think, correct? Yeah.
I am on Instagram. I think it's raised_vibes.
Is that your main? Instagram's your main profile, or is Facebook?
Instagram is probably my main. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was great having a conversation with you, and hopefully, if there's any tidbit that people could take away.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.